Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post. Superman has massive box office projections. From Box Office Theory, Superman expected to take in $154 to $175 million on its first opening weekend. Those would be tremendous numbers, more than Warner Brothers was even asking for. It's great news for DC and Superman and James Gunn. It's terrible news for the MCU. Marvel, by putting out some really terrible movies that were not focused on what people cared about, were not focused on their actual characters, but pushing propaganda, was able to diminish the whole value of producing superhero movies. The biggest challenge that James Gunn really has with his Superman movie is that a lot of people are tired of superhero movies, and it's not superhero fatigue, it's terrible superhero movie fatigue, where you move away from the character and you just use the character as an opportunity to package your propaganda. Marvel decided that was the way to go a few years ago. They felt entitled to do that because, hey, it was their company, they were their characters, they could do whatever they want with them. And they did, but that didn't make people want to go see the movies. Deadpool and Wolverine was a hit. It was definitely not your typical MCU movie. One Marvel project that hit me in a way that no other Marvel project did was Daredevil Born Again. Such an unbelievably poorly made show. A show that they should not have come out with. Yes, there were major reshoots. They said they were remaking the thing. They initially planned to do 18 $25 million episodes for Daredevil Born Again. That was under the old regime before Bob Iger came back. But it was also during the time that they felt they'd reinvent the characters and the tone of what they were doing. They really felt like they could do just anything and it would get great viewership, or at least good enough viewership. And it did not. After all the changes and all the reshoots, Daredevil Born Again really lacks any kind of soul with respect to the storytelling, the aesthetics, the look, the feel. What was that show about? What characters were supposed to be going through what journeys in that series? It's as if they did take out all of the hollowed out junk, but when that was out, all they were left with was packaging. And I've always been a big fan of Daredevil, especially the Frank Miller Daredevil. But Daredevil Born Again was really unwatchable. They never should have released this. From Comic Book News, Daredevil bombs hard. Nielsen Top 100 exposes Marvel's big flop. And that's not Marvel's only struggle. The Thunderbolts is dead. Reportedly, they've lost $100 million on it, and now they're falling behind Captain America 4, which also did badly. How much money did they really lose? Who knows? But every time they have a failure, same as any time you have a success, it affects the whole brand. The Marvel brand has lost any credibility such that when you see a Marvel logo on a project, it's not a project you're going to go see. It used to be anything Marvel, you'd spend money on it, you'd spend time on it, you'd invest your energy into it, you'd tell your friends about it. Not anymore, and that's not likely to ever be coming back. Sure, they'll have a hit here and there. Maybe they'll have another Deadpool movie. Maybe the upcoming Avengers movie will create some interest, but they have no life to the brand. No momentum. Nothing people actually care about. The Fantastic Four is coming out, and it looks like it's going to also be bad. From Comic Book News, Fantastic Four ending leak confirmed, and it's even worse. Worse than expected. Test screenings reportedly bombed for Fantastic Four, forcing Marvel to reshoot Fantastic Four ending. And what about the female Silver Surfer that looks like a hood ornament? They felt they needed to change the Silver Surfer into a hood ornament, a female hood ornament, to meet their social and political goals. Well, that's not what people want to pay for. And that does nothing for the customers. All it does is reduce the value of the Marvel brand. And not just the Fantastic Four brand, the entire Marvel brand. Also on Fantastic Four, Marvel skipping Comic-Con. Fantastic Four flop incoming? Most likely, yes. They don't have to go to the Comic-Con. They could still have a hit, but they're not likely to have a hit with this movie. And there are a lot of people that are interested in the Fantastic Four. They could have done something good here. They chose not to. From ThatParkPlace.com, Superman set to soar with massive opening weekend box office projections. Will James Gunn even topple Zack Snyder? He might. If the numbers are correct, he will. But James Gunn is getting a lot of positive buzz, and that is what all this stuff is about. Now, he has gotten recent criticism, and criticism going back as far as December, talking about how his version of Superman was too goofy. From Comic Book News, and this dates back to December, Superman Fallout, buzz is not good, should be worried. Following the release of the Superman trailer and a test screening, It's claimed that Warner Brothers is nervous about the movie. Worth a mention is that prior to the release of the trailer, it was said Warner Brothers was not happy. And this comes from Jeff Snyder's YouTube channel. Quote, I went to dinner with a source who knew multiple people who had seen Superman. The buzz is not good. It's not me trying to take the movie down. I'm hearing bad things. I'm hearing you should be worried things. A lot of changes could still happen because this was back in December, and the movie's scheduled to be released in July. He also said, it sounds like James Gunn is aware of some of the feedback. No doubt James Gunn is aware of all of the feedback. The stakes for DC are tremendous. If DC and Warner Brothers get this movie right, they will outshine Marvel almost immediately because Marvel has really lost track of their momentum. There is no momentum for Marvel anymore. If Marvel puts out another Deadpool movie, yes, people will go see it. They'll get excited for Deadpool, but they still won't be excited for Marvel. If James Gunn has a hit with Superman, people will be excited for Superman and they will be very interested and hopeful that the rest of DC could be like that hit. That's the benefit of a total reboot like this. It's a clean slate for DC, and it's a checkered past for Marvel. Recently, Superman went through some extensive edits. From Cosmic Book News, Superman Panic? Insiders downplay Gunn's course correction. Reports continue to swirl around James Gunn's Superman following claims of goofy humor, political jabs, and last-minute changes. But now insiders are pushing back, saying it's all part of the normal post-production process, and that the studio is happy with what Gunn delivered. James Gunn's DC is something new. We don't know what his production process is. Did they have to cut a lot of things? That if they did not cut, the movie would have been terrible or the movie would have come off stupid? Yeah, it might have. We know the Marvel production process is to just make something and then keep editing it and reshooting it, and Gunn did come out of the Marvel school essentially, so maybe that is his process. Maybe that's not his process. The important thing is it seems like they're on the ball and they're trying to fix this. And the difference between Daredevil Born Again, which looks like it was made literally without any identity, soul, or interest in the actual Daredevil character, you compare that to Superman, where yet James Gunn was writing Superman and was thinking about Superman as a character and what his arc would be. I would put James Gunn's writing up against whatever they did with Daredevil Born Again any day of the week. Because I've seen his Guardians of the Galaxy movies where he's had a lot of editorial control. And those movies have a lot of heart in them. And they did well financially. People liked them. People talked about them. People felt something when they watched the movie and they enjoyed the story. That's exactly the kind of person you want handling characters. Make the characters feel real, make them relatable. They can be super, but they should also feel human. Expect plenty of human moments and human frailty in Superman. And expect him to overcome challenges, like real writing. I can't tell you how disappointed I am in Disney with what they did with Daredevil Born Again. It never should have come out. Do you know Disney spent a minimum of $25 million per episode on Daredevil Born Again? And the Netflix episodes they spent $3 million making? Where does all that extra money go? It's definitely not into the production. Despite the online noise, The Hollywood Reporter reports there were only 3 days of pickups in Atlanta, far from the claims of a full reshoot. According to The Hollywood Reporter's email newsletter, changes were made, but insiders described them as typical of any blockbuster fine-tuning its final cut. The site also fires back against claims of changes with the composers. They said this, here's what we know. The movie had 3 days of pickups in Atlanta, but no major reshoots. John Murphy started as the composer, providing the John Williams-inspired electric guitar riff, and David Fleming was brought in as an additional composer early on this year. Both of their music will be in the movie, as well as plenty of Williams tones. The site sources say that James Gunn isn't afraid of making changes, and again, it's all part of the process. They went on to say, and there have been a few test screenings. Quote, I'm no defender of Gunn, but none of this is unusual, says one source with knowledge of the inner workings of DC. It's part of honing the movie, any movie. The Hollywood Reporter adds that James Gunn welcomes feedback. Quote, another person close to the production echoed the sentiment. Gunn absolutely tests. He absolutely tinkers. He's not one of those directors who can't take suggestions, this person says. Despite social media noise, The Hollywood Reporter also says the movie is on track to lock its final cut by next Friday, 5 weeks ahead of release, which is usually a good sign. Quote, studio sources say that Gunn is due to deliver a final and locked movie next Friday. That's 5 weeks before its July 11th release date and a sign of studio satisfaction. Going by The Hollywood Reporter's word, no large-scale reshoots, no massive overhauls. Studio's still confident, final version ready soon. Every movie goes through changes during development, so Superman getting tweaked should not be a surprise. The earlier report also noted that studio heads Gunn, Safran, and Zaslav are reportedly scrutinizing every frame to ensure Superman lands. After The Flash, Shazam 2, Blue Beetle, and Aquaman 2 all tanked, Superman is being treated as a make-or-break film for the DCU. It looks like they're doing everything they can to get it right and properly launch the new DC universe. If this Superman film works, the impact on Warner Brothers as a business will be substantial. It will look like they have energy behind their fully owned, legitimate competitor to the MCU. And I don't see how Marvel can compete with this. Kevin Feige is still arguing with Bob Iger apparently. Kevin Feige wants the X-Men to teach us about social issues. If the X-Men were successful, it would be a one-off, while everything else around them just completely flops. From ThatParkPlace.com, Superman set to soar with massive opening weekend. James Gunn's Superman is shaping up to be one of the biggest box office events of the year, and possibly the biggest Superman debut of all time if projections are to be believed. According to early domestic tracking, the film is expected to open with $154 million to $175 million during its first opening weekend. If these projections hold, Superman would not only top Warner Brothers' expectations, but also claim the highest regular opening weekend of 2025 so far. Putting it in perspective, the last time Superman hit theaters in a major way for a solo film, it was Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, which opened to $116 million. Adjusting that for inflation to $2025, that would be $160 million. Meaning James Gunn's Superman is tracking either on par with or slightly higher than Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. Other Superman films have opened much, much lower. Superman Returns in 2006 opened to an inflation-adjusted $83 million. Superman the movie in 1978, that was a long time ago, but adjusting for inflation, opened at $36 million. If the projections hold on the high end, this would make Superman's debut the biggest in franchise history, unadjusted or not. And it could be the biggest non-holiday opening of 2025. The Lilo & Stitch remake currently holds the top opening of the year with $183 million over Memorial Day weekend. However, if you just count the Thursday preview through Sunday, that number drops to $145 million, putting the Superman box office projections firmly ahead of Disney's latest live-action offering in terms of standard weekend comparisons. And that's the only way to make a fair comparison. Same number of days versus same number of days. You can't throw in an extra holiday and say, oh, but Lilo & Stitch did more money. No, it didn't. You can't just throw in an extra day like that. That's not apples to apples. Analysts at BoxOfficeTheory.com attribute the strong tracking to a combination of factors. Superman has had record-breaking trailer views. The first full trailer reportedly earned over 250 million views across all platforms, making it the most-watched DC trailer in Warner Brothers history. Social media engagement and early reactions to marketing materials have been fairly positive. There are, of course, dissenters, many of which love the abandoned Snyderverse. Common complaints center around Superman's costume, a lack of faith in James Gunn, and an attachment to former Superman actor Henry Cavill, who was great as Superman, who had also been rehired by Warner Brothers to play Superman again before Gunn decided on a new direction. Superman is also opening 9 days after Jurassic World Rebirth, which is expected to front-load its box office, meaning it will do a lot of its business in its first days of release. That should leave room for Superman to dominate the following weekend. Superman will also have minimal direct competition. Marvel's The Fantastic Four First Steps debuts 2 weeks later, allowing both tentpoles room to breathe, especially if Superman generates strong word of mouth. Additionally, there's not a whole lot of positive hype around Fantastic Four or Marvel in general right now. It's really quite the opposite. James Gunn's vision is being positioned as a fresh, emotionally driven take on the iconic character with themes of hope and compassion front and center, something that could resonate with younger audiences and longtime fans alike. There's a lot of heart in James Gunn movies. There just is. You see the movie and you feel something. That's not accidental. That's part of the process. That's part of his process. This movie's going to make some money. While Superman is currently enjoying strong early tracking, the road to this point has not been without turbulence. The film has been surrounded by rumors of significant behind-the-scenes changes, most notably detailed in a recent report from World of Real. According to that report, Superman received mixed responses at early test screenings, which triggered a series of 11th-hour adjustments. Nearly 30 minutes of footage was reportedly cut out. with the tone of the film shifted to remove some of the more comedic elements that had been part of James Gunn's original vision. Sources also claim that one of the editors was quietly replaced mid-process, and a second composer was brought in late to help reshape the score and refine the film's emotional beats. Ticket pre-sales for Superman have not yet begun, but they will be a crucial metric in the coming weeks. If the early tracking momentum carries through, Warner Brothers could have its biggest superhero hit in years and a much-needed win for the DC brand. It's been a few years in the making, but it looks like James Gunn's Superman and James Gunn's DC is going to be taking off in July. This could be the start of a focus on characters, a focus on story, as opposed to a focus on propaganda. It's not like so many people were so interested in the Marvel characters and we depended on them and it's only comic books and it's only characters. Why do you care so much? It's because people really did identify with and grow up on some of these characters. We cared about Marvel. We cared about the Marvel vibe, the brand, the characters, the stories. And all of those characters, the entire brand was abused. And it was used to push really distasteful propaganda. Superman, the DCU, James Gunn, this is a chance to get everything good about superheroes, characters, stories back in the American culture and back in our iconic American characters.